It's actually not rocket science, honestly.
I think that's what holds up a lot of midlife women from really diving in and learning
Yeah.
because they feel this shame around either
Yeah.
like I gave my partner control or it's not easy for me to do this or I feel like out of my depth.
No, it is totally valid. A lot of the women that I talk with are going through a divorce or considering a divorce. And we all, and I put myself in there too because I did this as well. I just think there is such a power dynamic also when it comes to money and this mindset that women of our generation have bought into that men are better with money, right? Unless you are a mathy girl, unless you are a financial planner like our beautiful co-host. But if you are a woman who is not, considering yourself a math person, I feel like it's really easy to get sucked into that story of, oh, I'm just not good with numbers. I can't figure this out. And that's why I love everything that you've said, Karen, because it really breaks it down to little steps and it validates that even little steps are good. Welcome to Drinks with the Girls, conversations for women over 40 around connection, change, and the power of female friendship. Living well with stories to tell. I'm Karen, and this is Lisa.
We are moms and solopreneurs stepping into our own, diving into real conversations about things that matter to women in midlife.
We're here to spill the tea on everything that affects women in their 40s and beyond. Topics like loss and grief, changing relationships, launching kids, menopause, and reinventing ourselves in midlife. We are here to tackle it all.
Connect with us through a blend of our lived experiences, our friendship, the memory of our moms, plus a collection of real stories, honest conversations, and engaging interviews that will make women over 40 feel seen and remind them that they're not alone on this journey called life. Let's go.
Hey, listeners, welcome back to Drinks with the Girls. We are so excited for this conversation today. Well, I'm going to speak for myself. I am so excited for this conversation today.
Me too.
I think it is so important for all women, but certainly women over 40 to hear the things that we are going to talk about today. So before we really dive in, I need to let you know I am drinking a cute little plastic cup of my favorite Vino Disco.
Oh, yummy. Wine
Yes,
delivered to my door. Hell yeah.
Vinodisco.com, I'm pretty sure.
In the show notes.
Oh, I need to find that out.
Like,
And what are you drinking, darling?
So today I'm drinking hop tea, the calm one, and I've taken a couple of sips. It's pretty light and refreshing. I was looking for, to be honest, the hop water that Andrea Samadi introduced us to, but it wasn't at the store that I was looking for it at. So that's my next thing. I really want to try that, but I figured hop tea was, so it is what it is. So it is my total excitement on earth. Is that even like a phrase? To introduce, you got it, another Karen. This is Karen Van Voorhis, who's a certified financial consultant. And I met Karen, okay, it's the Smithy Network, y'all. Buckle up, right? I've talked to you about my alma mater, what a force we are to be reckoned with. So naturally, she's a Smithy, and I met her through my network. What was so amazing to me about my conversation with her is I have a lot of shame and issues around money and finances, and I'm gonna bet I'm not alone. And I felt so welcomed by her and so just not judged, and she met me where I was at, and it was just I was so nervous about the conversation, and it was just amazing. And she just put me at ease right away. And we've been looking for someone to come on to talk about this topic as our guest expert, and really just have been waiting for the right person. And Karen is it, y'all. So buckle up. You're in for a treat. Karen, you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you're drinking?
Yes. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Karen Van Voorhis, and as you mentioned, Lisa, I'm a certified financial planner outside of Boston, and I did indeed go to Smith College like Lisa, and I am drinking some seltzer water. Not very exciting this evening, and it is peach pear flavor.
Yum. Peach pear.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. A lot of women in midlife feel like they are starting too late when it comes to building wealth. Is that actually true, Karen?
So I think a good mantra that we all need to put into our heads is that it's never too late. And that's true. That's not just a thing we need to tell ourselves or something that makes us feel better. I mean, that's really true. It is true that one of the biggest assets that we all have in preparing ourselves and in establishing our financial health is time. So it is true that the sooner that people start paying attention, taking baby steps, being engaged, the better off generally those people are when they reach, let's say, retirement. So that part is true. I think that's what people are alluding to when that type of question is asked. Like it's too late for me. I'm already in my 50s. I'm already in my 60s. But the reality is that financial health and well-being gets better when you do something. So doing something is always better than doing nothing. And so for the people who are paralyzed or stuck in one place or who don't know what to do next or who say it's too late for me, that's not true. I mean, you can always get someplace by doing something rather than doing nothing. And I say do something because the field of financial planning and investing and planning for retirement and trying to send kids to college and just trying to deal with your cash flow every month and things like that. It's a very, very, very broad field. So on the one hand, the bad news is it's very broad. There's a lot of things to tackle. On the other hand, you have a lot of choices. So just tackling one thing can be really useful and also really empowering. Just the people listening to this probably right now are saying, like, I don't even know what's in my 401k plan at work. Well, just that one little thing, like, all right, so tomorrow, get online, figure out how to look at your 401k plan, figure out what you're contributing to it, figure out what you're invested in, even if you don't know what it means or don't know if it's good or bad, like figure out something else, right? So it's not really too late. And I'm not telling people that just to BS them.
Yeah.
It's really
So then would you say, like, if people could take a first step, like a good first step would be A, get a 401k if your company sponsors it, and B, make sure you're getting the most out of it? Like, is that a good first step?
yeah, that or sometimes people come to me and they are already bothered by something they're not doing. So if you have like a niggling little feeling in the back of your mind, like, gee, we don't have any life insurance and I know I need life insurance, or my spouse's employer doesn't offer a retirement plan, we got to do something about that. Like, I feel like there's always at least a short list of things that people are sort of bothered by, even if they don't know exactly what to do about it. But that's not a bad place to start. That, or yeah, Lisa, we can always say to ourselves, a couple of the heavy hitters are saving for retirement. How are we saving for retirement? Do we have a type of retirement plan? Oh, we don't. Let's learn more about that. Let's get one. Let's figure out how to save. And then the corollary to saving is investing, because saving is one thing, but once you put all the dollars away, if you want them to grow, then you have to invest them, and that takes a little bit more science and a little bit more skill. But yeah, I'm a big fan of sort of starting anywhere. Again, doing anything gets you a chunk of the way there, and I think it's also empowering, right? When you do something, one little thing, and learn about it. I do feel like financial wellness is a series of little tiny baby steps that all sort of build on each other. So just start. It feels like one big heavy lift, but really it's not. Really, it's 50 little tiny things that have a bigger impact.
And I love what you said so much, Karen, about, even if your first step is just figuring out how to look at your 401k and just even
Mm-hmm.
see what's in there. Because I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times it's easy to put our head in the sand and just not deal with it. You know, like, oh, I'm in a lot of debt. I don't want to look at it. Or, oh, I don't really know how
And
to figure out my 401k, so I don't want to look at it. So I think that even just taking that tiny step is empowering. Like you said, it helps you feel like you're starting to take control.
and further, you know what's a really interesting dynamic with women of this generation is a lot of times I'm not even talking about women or families that are a disaster and nobody knows what they're doing or has any awareness. Ironically, I often talk to women who have a spouse who's all over it. And that's a really interesting dynamic and a really interesting type of relationship that I see where, and this can go the other way too for people in heterosexual couples. Sometimes the man can be more disengaged, but it's not unusual actually to have a spouse who's very engaged and to have another spouse who's far less engaged. And it's it's a trick, right? Because the less engaged spouse thinks, "Oh, I'm so lucky I have Mike and Mike takes care of everything for me and so I don't have to worry about anything." But I'm here to tell you, ladies, that it's don't fall into that trap because I see you in my conference room when you are 70 or 75 and Mike is no longer with us or he has passed away or you're getting divorced or some other scenario. And it's an awful lot of learning that has to be done very quickly in a small amount of time during some type of a traumatic window of your life. And so this type of learning, it is cumulative. It's absolutely cumulative. And so it's not so much women that are being cut out the way it used to be a generation or two ago where my mother is a perfect example of this where my father took care of everything, my mother-in-law also, and because no man would let a woman worry their pretty little heads about anything. It's not really that. It's there's some couples where there's actually a lot of good responsibility and stewardship and knowledge happening, if you will. And it's really easy to take a back seat. And it gets increasingly uncomfortable. So if you're somebody who is just feeling like, I think we're fine, but I really don't know what's going on, I think that's worthy of listening to your gut on that.
You're like a part-time therapist. Like, seriously.
You'd be surprised. So I have a designation called the Certified Financial Planner designation, which is like the financial planner industry's version of like the bar exam, right? It's no joke, this exam. And when I took the CFP exam 20 something years ago, 22 years ago, it was straight up sort of like math and book knowledge and taxes and investment and estate planning and insurance and all that. And now I'm happy to say that there's actually a psychology component to the exam. And they actually teach this in the formal like review classes and prep courses in order to prepare for this exam. There's a component, there's a module that's all psychology. You'd be surprised. And this goes back, right? It goes back to what we learned. It goes back to what our parents modeled for us or not. It goes back to their parents. And we are a totally different generation than a generation or two ago where this wasn't discussed. There was frankly nothing to know because the men had pensions and the women stayed home and didn't have any assets of their own, and the women were cared for by the husbands. Even after they passed away, there was still some type of pension money, right? That was it. It was simpler. And it's not that way anymore, largely because pensions have gone away. And that's because we all are living longer. I mean, it used to be that you worked for, this is my father-in-law was exactly this, where he worked for the same company his entire life. And it used to be you had a pension and you had retiree health care also.
Mm-hmm.
You had health care on top of Medicare. So your family was all set. And it used to be that people would retire at 65, men would retire at 65 and drop dead on the golf course 6 months later. And that doesn't happen anymore. People live till 80 or 90. My father-in-law lived till just shy of 90. But so think about that from the company's point of view. The company that used to have to make pension payments to these employees, these former employees, used to have to do that for only a small handful of years, but had to pay my father-in-law for 20 years, more than 20 years, right? So that became expensive. And so companies stopped doing that. They were like, everyone who's already in the pension system, that's good. But all the new employees coming on, we're not going to offer that to you anymore. That's been the shift.
Yeah.
And so it's really not that women aren't knowledgeable. It's that this has all come like a freight train towards this generation all at once. And that's why all of my clients are like 50 to 75-year olds, because that's the group where it wasn't discussed at home.
Yeah.
You didn't have any family legacy or family history of talking about it.
I want to drive home that point that you made about women being involved in the finances, even if you have a partner, because I lived that
Yeah.
life. I was a 50s housewife living in the 90s because I had all these stories in my mind about, well, he's better with money and I'm not as
Yeah.
smart as he is, and so when you say there's a psychology piece now to the financial planning exam, I mean, that is so amazing because so much goes into it besides just the numbers, right?
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I was kind of clueless when I mean, I don't want to say clueless, that makes it sound extreme. I didn't understand the ins and the outs of our money. Like, I knew all of our accounts, I knew what was in there, I knew the debt and all that. But it wasn't until I got a divorce that I had to
Mm-hmm.
have a crash course
Yeah. You learn
in
really quick.
really quick. And now I feel like a
Mm-hmm.
boss ass bitch because I know exactly. Sorry, but
Boom.
it's true because I know exactly what's
Yeah.
going on and I'm managing it. And it's so I would say if you are in a partnership with somebody, married, not married, committed, whatever, and you're sharing finances, that get involved and get knowledgeable about what is going on. Because like you said, somebody passes away, maybe a divorce, something happens, and you need to know what the hell's going on.
It's actually not rocket science, honestly. Like, investing is not rocket science. People think it is, but it's really not, or it doesn't have to be. I mean, investing is one of those things that can be sort of as simple or as complex as you want it to be. And so, if you are in a relationship where someone has convinced you that it is rocket science, or is presenting their 401k plan, your 401k plan, your investments as rocket science, I'm here to tell you that's just not the case.
Red flag.
You learn it. Yeah, you can learn it, you can know it. There's a zillion different resources online. There's TikToks about this, for goodness sake. Like, I mean, that's where the next generation down, my kids are late teens, early 20s, and that's where those guys are going to kick our rear ends on this, because their level of financial literacy just blows us all away. I didn't know a single thing at 21 about anything, and now I got a 21-year-old who's got like a Roth IRA and has
God.
investments in it and stuff. Yeah, it's sort of crazy. So that generation is it realizes. And also, that's coupled with the fact that 27, I think now, of the 50 states actually require financial literacy prior to graduation
Mm-hmm.
out of public high school. So that's coming, where there's a recognition that this is a skill that has to be taught. The same way when I was in school back in the 80s, you had home ec or whatever, like, you had typing in
Yep.
school. This is financial literacy is a course, and I think that's really great. So it's not the under 30s that I'm worried about. It's our generation, right? So it like I said, I'm really convinced financial planning, it's very broad, but life insurance is actually not rocket science. Investing in your 401k plan is not rocket science. Understanding how to open a 529 plan for your kid for getting ready for college is not rocket science. It feels like it is. I totally acknowledge that. And it feels overwhelming. But if you just bite off a little tiny chunk, and just be like, I'm going to figure out this 529 plan thing. Let me do some reading about it. You can do that. It can be manageable. It's just a lot of different pieces.
Hey there, I'm Lisa Corachella McDowell, your midlife Pacific Northwest princess, here to guide you in the art of next leveling your life. I'm passionate about women's health and wellness in midlife, especially for moms parenting kids with unique needs like I do. I truly believe we can learn, grow, advocate, and care for the planet while taking care of ourselves and our families. And I'd love to help you do the same. Plus, I'm beyond excited to announce the launch of my new membership, the Empowered Parent Collective, this March. It's a space for parents to confidently advocate for their kids, build inclusive communities, educate themselves, and find balance and support along the way. To find out more about the Empowered Parent Collective, my classes, wellness offerings, parenting tips, advocacy resources, and exclusive Drinks with the Girls goodies, head to nextlevellifewithlisa.com. Let's survive and thrive in the messy middle together. Cheers.
So back to the whole investing is not rocket science thing.
Mm-hmm.
What would be a realistic strategy for someone that's never done it that would suggest, like, okay, I just start here. If you've never done it before, I'd start here.
So maybe what I'll do is give a 2-minute primer on, is it okay to give a 2-minute primer
Absolutely.
on like what's a stock, what's a bond? Because then from there, everything else flows. So, I mean, so largely there's three different types of investments: stocks, bonds, and cash, right? And cash is like something in the bank, like a CD or a savings account, right? A stock is when you're an owner. So if you have, that's where the word equity comes from. If you are listening to the news on your way home at night and you hear somebody talk about the equity markets did this, or on TV, the equity markets did that, that's what that means. It means the stock market, right? Just like you have equity in your house. So you own something. So if you have stock in Microsoft, you have some shares of Microsoft. If you own $1,000 of Microsoft stock, you are a little tiny baby owner of Microsoft, along with 1 bazillion other people in this world, right? And bonds, actually, you don't hear a lot about bonds because they're just, frankly, they're not very exciting. They're not, I mean, I think
Not
they're
sexy.
Nobody else thinks they're exciting, and they're absolutely not sexy. But bonds, just to be clear, are the opposite of stocks. Bonds are where you're a lender. So instead of having $1,000 of Microsoft stock where you're an owner, that's where you take your $1,000 and you lend it to Microsoft. And there's a little contractual agreement baked in there where Microsoft agrees to borrow from you, let's say $1,000, and let's say for 3 years. And during that time, they'll pay you, let's make up some number, like 4% a year, right? For the privilege of having your $1,000. And at the end of that 3-year period, they pay you your $1,000 back. And so that's where you get the term fixed income. So you sometimes hear them talk about fixed income markets, the fixed income markets and this, fixed income markets to that. That's what that is. It's the bond market. And by the way, they call it fixed income because the income is fixed. Because you can pretty reliably lend your $1,000 to Microsoft and know that they're going to pay you X amount per year, right? So those are the basics. And everything that you might find in your 401k plan or in an IRA or in a regular retirement account flows from one of those three things. Now, what's happened in the last couple of decades to make it easier is they created baskets of stocks or baskets of bonds or a basket that's a combination of stocks and bonds. And that's what we call funds, right? So instead of taking your $1,000 and buying Microsoft stock where you only own one thing, you can take your $1,000 and you can buy a mutual fund. Now, maybe that mutual fund invests in all the large companies in the United States or all the small companies in the United States or a lot of international companies, right? But if you buy a mutual fund, you give your $1,000 to a manager, and that manager takes everyone's $1,000 that they put in and turns around and like the underlying holdings are all the different stocks. So you've just been able to diversify what you own. Instead of just owning Microsoft, you might own Microsoft and like 500 other bits of 500 other companies. That's what a fund is. So that's in your 401k plan.
Yep.
You can't actually buy single stocks or single bonds in a 401k plan. It's like not allowed. So you have mutual funds in a 401k. But so to answer your question about where to start, mutual funds or their cousin called exchange traded funds or ETFs. ETFs tend to be a lot less expensive. They become very popular in recent years. But either of those, like just taking a shot
Yeah.
at those, and there's tons of research online about what type of mutual fund is this. And if you have it now, you probably have mutual funds or exchange traded funds in a 401k plan or in an IRA now. And I know what you're doing. You're just like looking at that list that you have and going, I don't
Right.
know what these are. Oh, it's growing, so I guess it's
Yeah.
fine. But if you're curious or if it piques your interest, you can take the name of one of those and just Google it and see what's inside of it. And they have to tell you, like online, the fund family that's created the fund has to tell you at least the top 10 holdings. And there's, you can dig and you can find more, but pretty easily findable is what does it invest in? What are the top 10 stocks or top 10 bonds it invests in? That's how you could start to put it together. Though that's an easy way. It's like a quick hit, an easy way to take some money and like get it be diversified so that you don't have to worry about, I might give this to Microsoft, but what if Microsoft goes up? What if Microsoft goes down? I mean, remember when Tesla was such a hot stock a couple of years ago? And it's not so much anymore, right? So if you took your $1,000 and put it all in one, then that you ride that up and down. So one way to diversify away from that is to stick with some type of a fund, a mutual fund or an exchange traded.
And I've noticed now, like in the last few years, that pretty much, well, at least the companies that I've had 401ks with, they have kind of a mutual fund for dummies, for lack of a better word, that's like, I want to retire at X time, like the year.
Oh, right.
And then you can invest in that fund, and it's literally targeted to pay off the best return in that year. What do you think of those?
You're exactly right. So those haven't been around for very, very long. They've gotten extremely popular in recent years. Those commonly are called target date funds, and that's where you plug in the year, you buy the one that's the year closest to when you turn 65, 65 traditionally being like the age of retirement in the United States, even though a lot of people work past age 65, it's very common. But that's what it's meant for. It's meant for targeting the year around which you turn 65. And then actually, remember I said mutual funds are a combination of things. Those target date funds actually have some bonds and some stocks in them. They're a blend. And what happens is as you're younger and you're farther away from retirement, the amount in stocks is higher because stocks are more volatile. They have a much greater range of outcomes on either side of zero. They could be double digit up in any given year, double digit down in any given year. And bonds, as I mentioned, are not quite as exciting. So their range of outcomes on either side of zero are single digits, 4 or 5% on either side of zero, right? And so the theory is having some of each is a good thing because stocks will eventually get you growth, right? But you also have to live and be able to stomach the down years, double digit losses sometimes. And so those target date funds are meant to have a combination of both. And what will happen is as you tick through the years and as you get closer to that target date, the manager of the fund itself will start to divest you of stocks and put you more in bonds with the hopes of it being a little more stable as you head towards retirement, which is supposedly when you're going to need to draw on it. And you want something to be more stable as you head towards retirement. Yeah, those are brilliant. Target date funds have gone a long, long, long way to increasing the savings rate in this country. They're sort of like mutual funds for dummies. You used to just be able to get them in 401k plans or retirement plans at work, and now you can actually just buy them on your own. So you can actually seek them out in an IRA or in a regular investment account if you want to. Yes, that's a great point, Lisa. You can at least just start there if you don't know where else to start. You can't really go wrong with those, which is what they're meant for.
So would that be something that, because I'm thinking of people who don't have any type of retirement, like they don't work for a company that offers a 401k, maybe like a barber or a hairdresser or personal trainer, something like that. So where would you suggest they start?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, the savings rate and the planning for retirement is structured around people who work for companies and employers that offer plans, and people who are W-2 employees, who are actually employees, not people who are self-employed, not people who are consultants, not people who are working for themselves. And so you're exactly right, Karen, that is the demographic group that I worry about a little bit, because those of us who are employed by companies, have an employer during open enrollment they're like putting this 401k plan in front of us and going, see, here it is, time for you to add more money and increase your percentage that you're adding, right? But self-employed people are not so lucky. So self-employed people, I think, have to have a level of mindfulness and a level of thoughtfulness that people who work for companies maybe don't have to quite have. It's a little bit more automated and a little bit more done for you if you work for a company. There is a type of 401k that can be set up for self-employed people, but it's sort of complicated. A lot of self-employed people do just fine contributing to a regular IRA, either a regular IRA or a Roth IRA. Or my favorite is usually a SEP IRA, which stands for a self-employed pension. It's meant for self-employed people. And here's the beauty of making contributions to a SEP, is that those contributions are deductible as an expense, an above the line deduction. So it's deductible as an expense against your income. It's a pretty powerful deduction. So that can be a good motivator for people to add to a SEP IRA. And here's the other thing. I mean, I'm aware that we say this and it sounds so big, like, oh my God, I have to open a SEP and I don't even know what that means. And I don't even know how I would do that. But the reality is a quick Google will get you to a Fidelity or a Schwab or a Vanguard. Again, I go back to, like, doing some things is almost always better than doing nothing. And then setting up, whatever you can manage. If it's automated is your friend, right? So setting up a $100 a month deposit into your SEP IRA, that gets you further than you were last year in 2024, right? I mean, it just makes such a big difference. So there's a lot of evidence, a lot of studies they've done, again, around the psychology of it, that automated is good. Mutual funds for dummies is good. Having a habit is good. Having the habit and the discipline of something, it doesn't have to be big. It can be little. It's okay for the steps you take to be little.
Oh, I love that. Say that again.
Mm-hmm. It's okay for the steps that you take to be little.
Do you see why I love her? It's just like, it takes all the like big scary out of it. Like, I remember my big question was, oh my gosh, I do not have long-term care insurance. I'm such a loser and blah, blah, blah. And Karen was like, you do know that most people don't have long-term care insurance at your age. She's like, you good. Just worry about this and this and this. And I know Karen will talk about how to get a hold of her, because she does amazing consultations, and she and I like had a conversation about my situation, and she was very honest. She's just like, I don't think I can help you right now, but when this particular thing happens that we talked about, that would probably be a good time to get a hold of me. So we'll talk about that later, but it's just like this big warm hug. And typically when you talk about finances, everybody's just like, oh God, I'm such a loser, right? And it was just such a great conversation to sit there and not feel judged. And honestly, I think that's what holds up a lot of midlife women from really diving in and learning, because they feel this shame around either like, I gave my partner control, or it's not easy for me to do this, or I feel like out of my depth. Like, I don't know, co-host Karen, what do you think about that? Do you feel like that's valid? I mean, I know you talk to a lot of midlife women.
No, it is totally valid. A lot of the women that I talk with are going through a divorce or considering a divorce. And we all, and I put myself in there too, because I did this as well, but this is a little bit of a tangent, but we love our tangents.
We love our tangents. It's all good. Squirrel, go ahead.
But we sometimes say, oh, I don't want that much, like in the divorce settlement, right? And we say, oh, I don't need that much. I don't want that much. You know, I was going to not even take half of our assets, which in fact, I really didn't. Anyway, but I just think there is such a power dynamic also when it comes to money, and this mindset that women of our generation have bought into, that men are better with money, right? Unless you are a mathy girl, unless you are a financial planner like our beautiful co-host. But if you are a woman who is not, you know, considering yourself a math person, I feel like it's really easy to get sucked into that story of, oh, I'm just not good with numbers. I can't figure this out, you know. And that's why I love everything that you've said, Karen, because it really breaks it down to little steps, and it validates that even little steps are good. Like even little steps are still steps, right? My name is Karen Shatafian, and I am a shameless coffee addict and empowerment coach for women, and my love language is authenticity. My mission is helping women unapologetically design a life they're in love with. Because what the hell are we waiting for? My website, KarenShatafian.com, has all my coaching packages and free offers like my Midlife Reclamation Guide. In it, you'll find tools to help you decide how to create the most inspired and empowered version of yourself and your life. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram talking about ways women can show up for themselves after decades of showing up for everyone else. Join me as we throw off the shackles and live our best freaking lives. See the show notes for all the details. Cheers.
Totally recognize too that we're playing in a man's world here with this.
Preach.
The men have, we all know, we can say what we want about the patriarchy, and I love men as much as the next person. I'm married to one, he's great, but the men have controlled money for a long time. And a lot of heterosexual relationships have the man controlling those conversations. And not even because it's bad, he's a bad guy or he's evil. It's not even that. It's just that's sort of been the gender, that's sort of the default gender dynamic. And also, Lisa, to your comment about some conversations that you and I have had, you know, there's not a lot of there's not a lot of women financial planners out there. I mean, the less salesy you get, like in my world, there's people, planners or advisors that are like sort of selling things, and that tends to be very, very male dominated. And if you hang sort of in my corner of the world, which is more holistic and this broad-based approach, you do tend to land on more women. But still, it's a male dominated field. And myself and my female peers were all trying to change that. I'll tell you one thing. Here's an easy one for women who are partnered or married is I pretty much, with very few exceptions, I won't see couples without both of them in the room. Like, it's just not a thing. Like, long gone are the days where, Bob is my client for 20 years and I haven't even met Carol until the day Bob dies. And then I meet Carol. Like, that's just not a thing. So I make it very clear from the beginning, like, this is a household. You're running a household together. You both have different contributions to this household. You both have levels of knowledge that are different about how this household is running financially, and that's okay. And you both have different levels of interest in what's happening or not happening, and that's okay too. But I'm copying you both on emails. And we're all going to go see the estate planning attorney together. And I am going to copy you both on the email I'm going to send to your CPA. Like, we're all doing this together.
Yeah. Non-negotiable.
Yeah. And that helps. Like, a lot of it is just be aware. Like, so for people that are out there that have an advisor that emails your spouse but doesn't email you, that's part of the problem. It's not because spouse is a bad person or because advisor is a bad person. You could be a great advisor, but it's been generational habits.
Yeah.
That we
awareness, I think.
Yeah. Awareness is a lot of it.
We love to talk about the forking patriarchy on this podcast. So
yeah,
you're speaking our language.
Be in the room. Be in the room. Yeah.
Let's take it another level, that patriarchy, because I was a stay-home mom.
Yep.
in my marriage. And you know, to your point about how the generations underneath us are so much more financially savvy. Like
Yeah.
I see online women who choosing to be a stay-home mom, but not in the trad wife way, in the, oh yeah, I am a stay-home mom, but also we are contributing to a 401k for me. We are contributing to a retirement for me. Like even though she is not actively bringing in money, it's still looked at as a partnership. And I think that's something that our generation falls into, is that, and this is what my ex-husband felt when we were in the divorce attorney's office, is he earned the money, so it was his. And that's
Ew.
a very, yeah, it's a very yucky place to be. So for women to empower themselves and just, yeah, be part of the conversation, get on the emails. And it's hard. I know, believe me, it's hard to bring up those conversations if you have a partner that's not traditionally, and not that my ex wasn't, like, we would, you know, I would say like every 3 months we would sit down and we would literally go over everything. So it's not like he was trying to keep anything from me or that, but it is those outdated conditioned beliefs that we have as men and women that, you know,
Yeah.
really were at play in my marriage and my divorce.
Yeah, I worry about that demographic group. I worry about women who don't get paid. Whether that's a stay-at-home mom because that's what you love to do and that's your calling, whether you're a volunteer, like for whatever reason, I think it's fine that you choose to do that with your life, but the and I fully support that, but there are disadvantages from a financial standpoint. And so what happens, and think of this cumulatively over time, like think of this over 20 or 30 or 40 years. So women, first of all, don't get me started on the gender pay gap, right? So we all roll out of college and we all roll into full-time jobs perhaps at the beginning, and you got men who right away are getting paid more than us. So that right there is a problem. Now, if you extrapolate that over a long period of time, then women are falling farther and farther behind, right? Men are being paid more and more, and women are trailing, continue to trail, even if we have two people that work full time for a long time. So you have women that all of a sudden don't have as much earning power as men do over a long period of time. So their cumulative earning power over a lifetime is less, just based on that, the gender wage gap, much less if women traditionally have many, more than one, on ramp and off ramp from careers. They're dropping in and out of the workforce. They're considered, for a variety of reasons, considered the more flexible employee. When you have a woman that doesn't earn as much and the spouses are sitting there looking at each other going, well, someone's daycare is too expensive, someone's got to stay home, it's not going to be me, says the man, because I make more, you make less. And so right, so then we got you, then you're not even in the workforce anymore. Not in the workforce, you don't have any earnings. If you don't have any earnings, you don't have a 401k plan being offered to you. So you're not putting in money into any type of retirement plan. Let's pretend you're not self-employed, right? So let's pretend you like otherwise would be working at a company. Many companies, although not all, will actually offer a company match into a 401k plan. That is free money that companies will give you for having participated in the 401, in the retirement plan at work. So you don't get that, right? And also, if you fast forward a whole bunch of decades to when you're pick some age in your 60s or 70 and you claim Social Security, the Social Security income that you get in retirement spins off of your earnings record. So you've just done yourself a disservice in retirement, right? So I worry, and not even to mention gender pay gap aside, we do things like we are predominantly employed by the arts, by nonprofits,
Mm-hmm.
by, so we tend to take lower paying jobs anyway, right? So
Education.
I worry about that group because they have to be extra vigilant. And I really liked what you said, Karen, about thinking about like the work I do is valuable, even though it's not paid. I want to have my own funding. So it's not unusual for me to see clients in their 60s or in their 70s with very disparate amounts of accounts. So where a man will have, 75, 80, 90% of all of what we call the portfolio, which is like the group of accounts that people have in a household. The vast majority is in his name, and a little tiny baby amount is in hers. So that makes that group particularly vulnerable if there is a divorce. It's okay if your life rolls along. It forces a situation where you're dependent on that higher earner and that person with more assets. And for some couples, that works out just fine. I look at my parents, where my mother certainly has been vulnerable in that way, and she and my father have been married for 56 years, and he's not going anywhere, and it's fine. So she hasn't been done a disservice by that, if you will. But something could have happened, right? I would like to see women be cognizant of accumulating their own wealth, if you will, their own accounts, their own investments, and their own earning power, right? So that's my rub with not being paid. It's tough. The system in this country is not set up to support people that are not paid. And if you're not paid, you could get lucky and be in a relationship where somebody can provide for you, but then you're beholden to that provider, and that could work out dandy for you, but it also might not, right?
Yeah, like I said, I see a lot of women who are, going through or considering a divorce in their 50s and 60s even. And, I feel like we as women are so good at just like figuring it out and holding all the things and just hustling and grinding and making things work. And then they tell me, I don't want anything from him. I don't need anything. I don't want to make a big stink in court. And I said, oh no, you think about your 72-year-old self.
Yep.
I said, I don't want you thinking about your 55-year-old self right now. Because sure, right now you think, yeah, I'll get this new job and I'll do this new thing and it'll be fine. But you think about that 72-year-old self. And so even if you're a married person, even if you're somebody who's in a partnership, equitable
Yep.
partnership, right? Still think about that 72-year-old person, because
Yep.
shit happens in life. You
Yep.
just don't know. And I'm not saying divorce, but things happen, and
Yep.
you don't want to be left without any kind of a safety net.
Well, and look at my
Yeah.
situation, right?
Mm.
I have a husband that has recently become disabled, and up until this point has had to take medical leaves, go part-time. So his assets are obviously pretty much non-existent at this point, other than the pension that he got from teaching. This wasn't a plan. We're not planning on getting divorced, but here I am, right? Trying to scrap to get through this period while we wait for him to get disability. And and it's a struggle to be able to
Mhm.
do that. And I know eventually it'll be okay, but this bridge time where I'm applying and doing is hell on toast for us. Like, I plan that. I mean, yeah, I get it when you say marriage vows, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, for sickness and health, but like, you don't sit there and go, oh well, my husband's going to be disabled in his 50s and I got to figure all this out. Like, you just don't know. And I think that's kind of what we're saying, is you need to make sure you're planning for all outcomes, because you can't predict the future.
One thing I like to say to clients or people that are younger that might be listening to this, or for those of us that have kids that are young adults, is life is not linear, actually. And in some ways that's good. And in some ways that's not so good. I mean, life is not predictable. I mean, all of us are of a certain way. And once you cross 50, you can look back and you can sort of see that it's not. And so, God willing, if life is long, and careers can be long too, you're going to have windows of time where there's income. You'll have windows of time where you're barely making ends meet. You have windows of time where everyone's healthy. You have windows of time that are full of sickness. And I'm the card carrying member of the sandwich generation at the moment. I just moved my parents into assisted living across state lines like 2 weeks ago, right? So there's windows where you're more flexible, and life and the administration of life, and by that I mean the financial aspects of it, are a little bit easier, and there's windows of time where it's more strained. And so for people that are a little bit younger, if you can, one thing you can do to help yourself is, when you don't have any particular pressures, or relatively few pressures on you, that's where you want to kick it
Yeah.
into making something happen, right? When you don't have a mortgage and don't have kids. I know everybody's underpaid and living in an apartment and trying to make ends meet, but that is an opportunity where you have fewer, if you're unpartnered, right? Then that can be an opportunity to put something small, again, baby amounts away. It makes a difference. Or sometimes I see people that land at a company where the benefits are particularly robust, so it's a particular match into a 401k plan. Or sometimes there's new accounts called health savings accounts that are really fantastic, and the company will add to that as well. Like, do it do it, because you might work for an employer that doesn't offer that at some point in time. So that's the hard part. The hard part is that life isn't linear, and getting through the parts that are leaner can be just really, really challenging. And we didn't all think ahead, because we were the generation that didn't think ahead for it,
No, we
because
were
we
the
weren't taught about it
generation that
before.
graduated and it was like, oh, everybody got jobs before us and we were
Yeah,
all
we just kept
scrapping,
going.
right?
Yeah.
That's just the nature of the beast.
Okay, quick pause. Have we talked about the Pod Squad lately?
Oh, the Pod Squad. You mean our email list /VIP lounge /digital wine club?
Exactly. So, listeners, if you're not on it yet, you're basically making life harder for yourself when it comes to podcasts.
Like trying to scroll for show notes while speed walking on a treadmill. Wait, what was that link again? Oh, no. Grab the side rails.
Or pulling up that book we mentioned while you're in the Starbucks line and then realizing everybody else moved up 3 cars and now you're that woman.
We've all been there. That's why we made the Pod Squad. You'll get new episode alerts every week with direct links. Easy to listen, easy to share.
And show notes straight to your inbox. So when we drop a life-changing product, book, hot tip, or yummy new drink, you're not rummaging through your memory like a woman searching for her reading glasses when they're on top of her head.
It's organized, it's helpful, it's for you, babes.
So join the Pod Squad. The link is in the show notes. Just tap it.
Snacks, sarcasm, solidarity.
And obviously, fighting the patriarchy.
We write at dawn.
So, Karen, you talked a little bit in the beginning about habits that are good for people to have. Let's kind of dive into that a little bit. And so, what financial habits or systems would you recommend to help women feel in control of their money?
Well, I really believe, and I've seen, that knowledge is definitely power. And there's some easy ways to get knowledge. Again, and this falls into the category of habits. And, you have to figure out something that works for your lifestyle, of course. But I'll tell you what worked for us or what's been useful for both of us is my husband and I, we've gone back and forth depending on the ages of our kids and sort of the rhythm of our family lives and such, where for a while we were doing every Saturday morning and kids were asleep or they were watching cartoons or whatever. And we would just sit with laptops. That was it. Like we didn't have an agenda. That's the other things. Everyone thinks it's a big, like, we gotta have a weekly money conversation. You don't really. Like, we just both fired up our laptops. We were in pajamas. We had coffee. We'd block half an hour and go, okay, what's going on? And, everything's online now. So either I had a stack of mail and I opened the mail, or I'd be like, oh, this bill came in, or did you see that thing I got from the doctor? Or my insurance company sent us a weird email. Let me look that up. That was it. We didn't actually have an agenda, but it was money focused. And we just did that. Or because I'm a financial planner, I do most of the financial management of our household. And I would say, I have to pay off the credit card by, the 13th of the month. Like, we use it to get points and we pay it off. And I remember him saying, like, oh, that's great. And me saying, why don't you do that now? And he said, well, I don't know how to get into the website. And I said,
guess what?
I think today is a great day for you to learn how to do that. Let's do it. Where's our list of usernames? Where's our list of passwords? Go in there, go to the website. Why don't you figure it out? Click on this, click on that. Like, it was just sort of like the side by side, like the parallel work that, again, I mean, I was doing that for him, right? Now he knows something happened to me. He knows what credit card it is, how to pay it off, like, how to look at the different charges and things like that. Like, just little like that. And now what we do, so, and speaking of being self-employed, like solidarity, because my husband's a self-employed journalist and he's been self-employed for the better part of 18 or so years. So I'm living this. I know what that's like. But I, on the other hand, am commuting to an office almost every day. And we actually connect almost every morning in the car. So I have about a 45-minute commute, and he will get up and get his laptop out and get his coffee going, and he sits and he calls me and puts me on speakerphone, and we actually have an online list of things to do. So like this morning we spent 10 minutes, and I throw things onto the list, or he does too, that I'm thinking of. So I was in our money management website. I use YNAB, you need a budget, but Monarch Money or Mint used to be around, any of those, right? And I noticed some recurring charges, and it was like, I don't know what this is. Is this you? Can I turn this off? Oh, one of our kids has something for school, but the end of the school year is here. I don't think she needs this $30 a month subscription for school. Like, I had just made a list over the weekend, and then when we were in the car, we just went through them, and he was like, oh yeah, no, I do have to unsubscribe from that. Oh yeah, I do have to, what, I said, what was that charge? Oh, that was so and so was getting their permit at the RMV. Like, just random. I can't tell you how random and like how tiny it is, but just that, it's just baby stuff. I mean, that's the big takeaway. It does not have to be big agenda. Like, I have to figure out what's going on. Like, eventually you'll figure out what's going on, but you don't have to start there. Just be like, I'm just going to look at my 401k plan once a month, and I wonder what this mutual fund means. I'm in this mutual fund and I don't know what it is. I wonder what it is.
It's so wonderful that even a certified financial planner has subscriptions going to her credit card that she doesn't know why they're there, and has to check and be like, why am I subscribed to this? That makes me feel, because literally apps have been built around that concept.
I know. That's a new dynamic now. Monthly subscriptions
are
a thing that people, they're hidden, and
it's no bueno.
I like that. I think to the extent that if you're by yourself, then fine. Then you're gonna do like baby updates every week or whatever by yourself. But I think with two people, it becomes more complicated. It really does, because there's two sets of people handling things differently, two sets of people who are engaged or not, much less if two people are employed, like not self-employed, but employed. There's often two sets of employee benefits, two sets of 401k plans happening, two sets of pay stubs, two sets of health insurance options. I mean, those can be, yeah. So we have a dump, but that's one habit. We have a dumping ground. We have a dumping list online where we just dump anything that occurs to us. We have one that's just for money, but it's just like, I saw this charge, I don't know what this is. We have to pay this bill by whatever.
I love that.
Yeah. It makes a difference, and it keeps you on top of things, and also keeps the other person that's not as inclined to be engaged, it keeps them engaged. We ran out of checks for our checkbook. One of our kids has a provider where they would like write a check and bring it to us to sign, and it's like, oh, we're all out of checks. So someone has to go on and like order another thing. I mean, random.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we always love to leave our listeners with some really helpful takeaways. It's something we kind of pride ourselves on. So on this episode, because frankly, we're already planning the next 3 episodes we can do with Karen, because this has been so amazing, we thought we'd do a lightning round with some just rapid fire questions. So I'll start with the first one. What is one financial book every midlife woman should read?
I don't know about a book per se, but I will counter with a newsletter that I think, especially if you're busy, sometimes newsletters can be really helpful because they drop right on into your inbox and you can just skim them and then make them go away. So there's one out there that I like. It's called Money with Katie. And it's a woman, and she is a hot ticket, man. She just, a lot like the two of you, just tells people like it is, and does a great job of breaking things down and digesting, and does a lot of like 101s. Health savings account. What is a health savings account? Let's talk about that. So I think that's a really great one. Fidelity also has one that is for women as well. you can just Google like Fidelity for Women and it will come right
Very
up.
cool.
And their content is, I think, really, it's palatable, it's easily digestible. You learn. I mean, I skim it. I subscribe to these and I skim them and I've learned a couple things. So yeah, I think those are easy ways to get information. I'm always trying to get information in little tidbits, and I think those are two that come to mind that
Those are great
I
ideas. I love that.
think are valuable.
I want to add a couple things, even though I'm not the expert, but I listen to two podcasts
Oh, tell
that
me.
are financial. One of them is called The Financial Feminist.
Oh,
And
good.
do you know, I don't know if you're aware of her. Her name is Tori Dunlap, and she wrote a book called Her First 100K. I don't even know if she's 30 yet. So
Oh,
she's not in our midlife demographic, but
mhm,
she's talking to young women
mhm.
about a lot of the things we were talking about today, and she makes it easy to learn. You know what I mean? Like you, she makes it, she talks about small things that you can do. You don't have to make it this big crazy thing. And the other one is Her Money with Jean Chatsky.
Yes.
And she
Chapter
is
good.
our generation,
Yeah.
so that is
Yes.
more, in our wheelhouse. But yeah, I like to listen. It's easier for me to listen to a podcast than to like read a book on finances.
Yep. Yep.
Well, and the
Yep.
other book, and I'm spacing on the title of it, but we did an episode about it. It was Rachel Rogers is the author. What the heck was it called, Karen?
We Should All Be Millionaires.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
Mhm.
And we'll put that in the show notes. But I thought that
Mhm.
was a fairly quick and painless read just in terms of the way she approaches it. And I think that would really be a good one as well.
So I have a question. What is one splurge that you feel like is always worth it?
Well, it's fairly well documented that money spent on experiences make you happier for longer and feel more worthwhile to you than the same amount of money spent on a thing. So if
That
it's
makes
a
sense.
toss up between, a ginormous flat screen TV or I don't even know what else, something else
Like a
splurgy like
designer
that.
bag or something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
or new car. I mean, I'm not super into cars, so I don't really care, but for some people, it's like the new car every
Yeah.
couple of years. That actually redirecting those funds into, I'm gonna be a little trite here and say travel or whatever is valuable to you, being with your friends or going away for a weekend or whatever, is like creating an experience, especially for those of us with kids, like it sounds cheesy to be like you're creating memories,
No, it's
but you
true.
are, right?
It's true.
It's
Yes.
true.
Yes.
And this has been tested actually. So far beyond the lifespan of the TV or the car or the handbag is like the vacations and the pictures you took and the travel that you did or time spent with kids or the you know dinner that you had for that you hosted for the whole neighborhood or whatever. I mean, those are all yeah, there's pretty clear evidence with that. So I try to get people, if you're mindful of making meaningful purchases that are valuable, you want to err on the side, lean towards an experience and not a thing that goes in the trunk of your car.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons for my kids'
Yeah.
graduation. We've told them they
Yeah.
can pick a trip. So my son,
Yes,
of course,
exactly.
Mr. Creative was like, I want to go to Disney World in Kenya. It's like,
Oh,
could I interest you in Disney World and staying at the Animal Safari Hotel? It's like, check, right? So, yeah, no, I totally agree. Okay, so conversely, and I realize that
Yep.
asking this question is a bit of a value judgment, so listeners take this with a grain of
Mhm.
salt. Biggest waste of money women make in their 40s and 50s.
I do think I don't think it's a waste, but I do think that being mindful of some of the things that our generation tends to buy can be helpful, like the clothing, the handbags, the shoes, and things like that, because the problem, if you will, with purchases like that is it trips off of like it trips a high
It's a
in
dopamine
you.
rush.
It is. It really is. And that fades, right? And so I do see women who, if you extrapolate that over a long period of years, those are funds that could otherwise
Yeah.
be
It's not an
invested
investment. Like,
long
I don't
term.
care how many pairs of Jimmy
No.
Choos you have. You can sit there and
Yeah.
tell me it's an investment. It's not an investment.
No. And that's where you get the old adage, like, pay yourself first. That's the theory. The theory is put money into your IRA, put money
Yeah.
into your retirement plan, redirect money into your 401k plan, something, and invest those funds. And then the theory is what's left over, you should feel free to spend. Now, I actually think that if you have money left over, you should be thoughtful about the leftover money you have and not just assume that that's just yours to go spend. Because I think those extra dollars can also be redirected in other ways as well. But that's where that comes from, is like the priority should be you investing in your future over the long term, which is harder to do, and it's not as exciting, and it's not as sexy, and the
Yep.
payoff isn't for a really long time.
Yep.
And you don't get the quick hit you do when you go out and you buy something, a piece of jewelry or new shoes or a handbag or something like that. So it is this it is a short-term high, and instant gratification that we get tricked into thinking is best for us, and really it's not over the long term.
Such a good point.
And I think we've been conditioned lately, the past, I don't know, decade or so, to really focus on the short term gains. It's like that instant hit, whether it's social media or whatever, but I digress. So, finish this sentence, Karen. Financial freedom in midlife feels like.
I think it feels empowering. I think it feels like knowledge. And that's what I think. I mean, financially running a household these days is really broad, and it can be very complex, and there's a reason why I have a job. It's because I've learned how to do this over nearly 3 decades, but everyone else who's having a busy life and trying to keep from going out of their minds, right? Want to be able to delegate some of this out to someone like me. But whether you're hiring someone or scratching the itch that you yourself have had, that's what I think. I think it's some level of contentment. You're never going to quite master all of it because it's too broad, and every family has sort of little pieces that they master sort of well, and other things that there's a little bit missing. And that's why a good financial planner can help with that, can help point that out. So every family has like little holes. But I do think that it is a level of contentment with your own knowledge. And then, fingers crossed, of course, I wish for everyone to have a good relationship with the other person in their, or people in their household, kids or extended family members or whatever. It's not this horrible, stressful thing, or it doesn't have to be this horrible, stressful thing. So if it's this horrible, stressful thing for you, something's wrong. You're doing it wrong, or your partner is sort of projecting that onto you, or something's not right.
Love it. Love it. Mic drop.
Yeah.
So, Karen, yeah, like literally, I just like figured out 3 more episodes you could do for us. So, listeners, if you love
Yeah.
this episode, tell us, because we'd love to have Karen back. Karen, how can people get in touch with you? I mean, I know how you work. We did a consultation. We came to, just like, hey, okay, probably doesn't make sense now. She was wonderful. She gave me some projections of like what it would cost and kind of what she would advise. And we kind of made a plan, and it was great. So, Karen, how can our listeners find you, work with you? We'll post some stuff in the show notes, but just give us your highlights here.
I'm pretty easily findable, so anybody can Google me. I have a good old Dutch last name, but once you master that, then I'm pretty myself and my firm are pretty easily able to be found online. I say that because a couple things about our website once you get there is one is there's a whole section called resources, and that has a lot of free resources. There are a lot of articles that I or my colleagues have written, a lot of these 101s, sort of like how to, what is an HSA, what is an ABLE account, what's a 529 plan. So there's a library there with resources. There's also, we've been doing our own educational webinars for several years now, and most of the recordings are there. So there's a whole library of recordings that are topical. So on Social Security, on Medicare, on IRAs, on estate planning for kids once they turn 18. I mean, just sort of name it. It's there. On long-term care insurance, Lisa, on, health savings accounts, and just topic by topic by topic by topic by topic. So that's one way that people can sort of catch up a piece of me or my colleagues. The other way is that right there, I have a calendar that's public, that once you get to the your team page and my bio is there's a button that you can click on that will let you schedule with me. And the way I think about it is I'm happy to have an initial conversation with anyone. We generally do book at least several weeks, if not to a few months out. So I tell people go and get on my calendar when you can, because it does sort of go fast, but grab a spot there. And then, there's a lot of financial planners and financial advisors and investment people out there in the world, and we all do something a little bit different. So the way I like to think of it is I will always have a conversation with somebody, and that's at no charge. And the goal is for me to figure out what's going on with you, and then whether or not I or my firm, by extension, or my colleagues can be helpful to you. And if we can, then that's great. We can have a conversation about what that might look like and how that might work. Sometimes, and maybe about half the time, it's not a good match. And I'm the first one to say that what you need is not what I do. You need my colleague that's at another firm down the street, or you need a specialist, or you just need to talk to an estate planning attorney, or here's 3 pieces of free advice. Off you go on your merry way. Keep me posted. Send me an email in 6 months. Let me know how you're doing, So the way I frame it is I always try to help people because I want to give them direction. Sometimes that direction is landing with me and my firm and us having a relationship, and sometimes it's not. But you don't have to worry about figuring that out, because I'll figure that out on your behalf and let you know the right way forward. There's a right person, and there's help, and there's resources for everybody out there. It's just a matter of you listeners finding it, and so I'm happy to be a part of that process.
You see why I love her? She's great.
I do.
All right, listeners. Well, I don't think you've wasted an hour. This was chock full of juicy tidbits and advice.
I just want to thank you so much, Karen, because you have really kind of demystified, I think, something that is traditionally, not a scary situation topic, but, something that I don't think women are really excited to
it's triggering.
Talk about, learn
is.
about. Right. So thank you so much. I look forward to more conversations with you, because I just think that we've just scratched the surface. And
I would agree.
Lisa,
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, Lisa and I love to, our goal is to leave our listeners better than we found them when they started the episode. And I think we definitely did that today. So thank you so much. Thank you, listeners, for joining us for another Drinks with the Girls episode. And per usual, share, leave us a 5-star review, and we will see you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.